Okay, good evening, everyone. I would like to call to order this regular board meeting of the Board of Park Commissioners of Lake Bluff Park District for November 17, 2025. Marcia, can I please have a roll call?
Sure, Commissioner Miller. Here, Commissioner Cole. Commissioner Aston.
Here.
Commissioner Brown.
Here.
Commissioner Hinkle.
Here.
Commissioner Ross. Here. President Weaver.
Here. And the agenda, we are going to just make a couple of adjustments to it. New business, Wesley is here meeting with us till 6:30, and then is going to come back, or is able to come back around 7:30. So for the first two items on new business, we'll start out with those first, and then we can add those again at the end of the new business if we have further questions that we need to bring Wes in for. So with that change, can I please get a motion to approve that?
So moved. Second.
Martha, roll call, please.
Commissioner Miller. Yes. Commissioner Aston. Yes. Commissioner Brown. Yes. Commissioner Hinkle.
Yes.
Commissioner Wells. Yes. President Weaver.
Yes. Statement of visitors. I don't think we have any statements now for our visitor. So now we'll move on to the consent agenda. The minutes of November 3rd. Special board meeting. The invoice schedule for ACH payments on the purchase cards. Anyone have any questions or comments on those? If not, can I please get a motion to approve the consent agenda? So moved.
Second.
Partial roll call, please.
Commissioner Wheeler. Yes. Commissioner Aston.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Yes.
Commissioner Hinkle.
Yes.
Commissioner Wells. Yes. President Weaver.
Yes. So now if we can go to the finance report. And Wes, I assume you're there.
I can hear. People hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. So yes, October's finance report is in your packets. With the typical summary financial statement graphs and capital detail. Highlights for the month of October. Total cash and investments held by the Park District as of 10/31 were just shy of 5.17 million. Total revenues year to date of just shy of 9.2 million, with total expenses of just over 8.4 million. It gives us a total year to date surplus $771,385. As has been the trend for the majority of the year, we are underspent on the capital side. So from a budgetary standpoint, we're doing well, but that's because a lot of the funds have not been spent on the capital side. For the other main operating categories, personnel, commodities, contractual, all within budget. Very minimal differences between year-to-date budget and actual spend. So budget was pretty spot on.
That often that was pretty spot
Okay, does anyone have any questions about these? What is the difference in the donations? You have $38,000 shortfall in donations and an $88,000 shortfall in miscellaneous. What are those relate to on the revenue side?
Could you repeat the question?
Sorry, let me move my signs and so on. On the revenue side, Wes, there's an $88,000 shortfall in miscellaneous revenue. And there's a $38,500 shortfall in donations.
So specific details on those, I can get line item specifics for you after the meeting. But as a generalized, why are they short of budget? In the miscellaneous category, that's where we have the golf lease revenue. And as we previously reported, a change in methodology. The revenue for last year, prior fiscal year, actually comes in Q1 of the current year. We've accrued for that appropriately in fiscal 24. We've backed it out of the current year's financials. So that won't that 161,000 year to date should actually be closer to that 73. From a budgetary standpoint, we should budget all of that revenue in December. So from a year to date standpoint, and we're going to adjust that with 26 budget, but that we do anticipate to be in line with budget. On the donation side, that $50,000 budgeted was for the anniversary celebration for the park district. We'll have to go back and look at where some of that activity was posted, because as you noticed, only 3,100 recorded year to date.
And the Friends had raised about just over 121,000.
Right.
So that went into the foundation and not into Parks and Rec, which is then the bills were all paid for the event from the foundation. Artworks or everything else on the event.
Okay. So it was in our budget to get that money.
I think we had budgeted that a year ago before it was even decided to be a foundation fundraiser.
Got it.
And then, yeah, then that changed.
Okay. All right, any other questions or comments? If not, can I please get a motion to approve the financial report for October?
So moved.
Second.
Marcia, roll call, please.
Commissioner Bueller? Yes. Commissioner Cole?
Yes.
Commissioner Costin?
Yes.
Commissioner Graham?
Yes.
Commissioner Henkel?
Yes.
Commissioner Wells? Yes. President Beasley?
Yes. Now the capital activity summary, which is page 25 of the packet.
The report here this month, the only real activity posted was for security key fobs, about middle of the page. 4567 spent. Outside of that, the rest of the categories or columns are status quo from prior month.
I would like to comment that the AC at the paddle hut, which says mini split, that is completed. So we just got the invoice today. for
Yeah,
that.
so this is all October activity, but
Yeah,
we got a few things that'll pick up for November.
the retaining wall, Bola, that's gonna be completed on Wednesday.
Which is another one the Friends have committed to pay.
Okay, so the things we have scheduled still look like they're going to be done.
Some of those will, and there's some that, yeah, that may need to be pushed. We did have a little bit of a slowdown with a change in our maintenance manager, you know, that often oversees some of these projects, so that we're getting that back in gear, such as the chimney at the north shelter or south shelter, which one?
South.
South shelter that we're doing now. Some of those things just, you know, slowed down a little bit for that pause, but now we're getting those two back up. So we'll get some of these other ones that are in progress completed, but probably not everything. We'll be going through that here shortly as we can decide that definitively what we can finish up before the end of the year.
Okay. All right, and then you have notes at the bottom, which are pretty clear, one of the big ones being the chemical building, we have received the approval that we do not have to put the sprinkler system in the chemical building, which,
Saves hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Yes, they had the second reading in the ADR in October, and so that was finalized. So we were receiving the exemptions for the car barn, the chemical building, and the north shelter slash guardhouse and bathrooms.
right,
So we are getting 3 exemptions, and then for the, we had budgeted for doing the sprinkler system in the clubhouse this year. And so that will, we also requested a exception to that, that's supposed to be done by January 1st, so the village approved the exception or extension until April 1st, so that we can do that over the winter months while the golf course is slow or closed.
but ultimately over 25 and 2025 and 2026, money spent on this, so. Okay, any questions about this? We don't approve it, just if anyone has any questions, it's been pretty consistent over the last time. All right, good. Now if we can please go to verbal communications. Staff?
We don't have, much other than, you know, what's in the different reports that, from staff is third. Into it here. Page 4. And so just, you know, 2 things that I highlighted in there, we had a meeting with Lake Bluff leaders, which is the school district, park district and village. Chamber of Commerce to go over some of the issues that we're working on in the community, some of the events. And the update of the grant for the pool itself, which we're, you know, just working on punch list, working on submitting all forms needed for reimbursement from the state with the OSLAD grant for that, and then there's been a finance and a golf committee meeting. You gotta read the summary there of what was happening in those 2 meetings. And since the last meeting, I did attend the IB Legal Symposium. And along with Deputy Director Lakeman and also Mark Montgomery were able to attend this year. So a lot of good information from different attorneys that just, you know, regarding legislation, upcoming bills and new laws, things that are at both the federal and the state level that are affecting the park district. It's very specific for park districts. So a lot of really good information. So they enjoyed getting that update. And that's really all I have. Jim, is there anything you want to highlight from your report?
The only, you know, right now we're in basketball mode and we are wrapping up evaluations at the end of the week. We'll start that program for practices and games. So it'll be pretty busy here at the rec center, starting right after Thanksgiving. We do on December 6th, we have breakfast with Santa. So that's a partnership we do with the Kiwanis at Grace United Methodist Church. So just a couple of things to highlight.
Any questions for staff?
Does Santa have a real beard or a fake beard?
Oh, that's a Santa secret.
So the secret's out if it's a fake beard.
Okay, our attorney is not here tonight, so we have no report from the attorney. Finance Administration and Future Planning Committee, we are meeting Wednesday to start going over, I hope, the 2026 budget. As well as a couple big conference.
Well, we're working on the draft. It is done, but it's not done in the format that you're used to seeing. So that's being converted. I understand that'll
Okay,
ready by the end of today. We should have something out to the committee to look over tomorrow morning.
good. And then we'll also be looking at employee cost of living adjustment and bonus.
Yeah, insurance benefits, and
So-
those two are things we look at in November.
Parts of each committee,
Still in the solicitation mode for the committee.
okay, facilities and programs,
We will, yeah, that's the last.
golf committee,
Nothing to report.
Friends of Lake Golf.
Met just before this meeting, I think the big question on our plate is next year and, if we're doing the fireworks event again, if the top, if Fred's gonna manage that, run it, use it as a fundraiser, or if the direction the board wants to take that for next year to advise us on what we're gonna do there, and then also, the pool, gazebo patio, discussion is still hanging there, just waiting for, I think, our approval of what we're doing with naming rights, so there's better direction as to what that agreement's gonna look like with promise. With hopes that we get that going in the spring, fairly cool. Anything else again?
No, I think yeah, that is what the option was.
All right, commissioner comments?
The article was terrific.
Wasn't that nice?
Yeah. One thing I would say from the Friends, John Hirsch is actually stepping down.
He is.
He has one more meeting, he'll be at the December 15th meeting. He served for the past 9 years. The past 7 years as president. And of course, he's donated a lot of his time and his company's effort and money towards a lot of these different projects, events. And so it's gonna be kind of a passing of the torch to, it looks like Alex Aldrich at this point. Who's the vice president, but it's been a long run for John, and he's ending on a high note with this, they've raised about 150,000. This past year, I think the highest amount that the foundation's ever raised in a year. And he said when he started, they were raising about 10,000 a year, so it's really come a long way, and so you see, John, congratulations.
For sure.
Yeah, well, we'll have to think what we might do. For the good time.
Well, can't name anything.
Noted.
He's not the naming rights.
Yeah.
It's not going to be redundant. Considering all of it. He's done.
All right, president's report, I will not make a report tonight, so we can get directly to the tax levy estimate for 2025. So, as we all know, we have to adopt an estimated property tax resolution at least 20 days prior to the date we adopt the final property tax levy. We will do that at our December 15 meeting, so tonight is when we look at the estimated property tax and pass a resolution approving that. So Wes, if we can call you in, if the finance committee has looked at this already. So Wes, if you could please step in and just quickly go over, I know you don't have a lot of time here, but if you could quickly go over the basics to what we're asking and why.
Absolutely. So within your packets, I believe it starts on page 26, is the start of the memo, kind of outlining the property tax process. And as previously stated, the goal or objective of tonight's review is to formally pass a resolution, making it known what our anticipated levy will be. Under the truth in taxation law, we're required to disclose or communicate that estimated levy at least 20 days prior to taking action. So nothing set in stone this evening. We're merely agreeing to or noting the total tax levy amount, so that we can come back in December with a final tax levy ordinance, which can be different than what we discussed this evening, but I'll kind of take you through the process. This really started middle tail end of September when we got final estimated EAV numbers from the county. Those are important to this process because we are limited under PTEL, the property tax extension limitation law, which allows us maximum levy increases year over year of CPI or 5%, whichever is less. The state issues that number in January of each year. And CPI for 2024, which we applied to the 25 levy, was 2.9%. Now, EAV factors into this because we are allowed to capture additional taxes on new growth. So we always look to the county to provide us with those new growth percentages so we can factor those in to our levy. On the second page of the memo, if you're following along, page 27 kind of outlines the full levy process. So October 30th, we kind of kick things off at the Finance Committee meeting this evening, making a formal motion on the estimated levy amount. For 2025's levy, we are not increasing the levy in excess of 5%. So we are not required to hold a public hearing, and we are not required to post in the paper our truth in taxation notice. Those are required when you're in excess of 105% of the prior year's levy. And then December 15th, as I mentioned, regular board meeting where we will pass the final ordinance, which then needs to be filed with the county clerk on or before December 30th. Tax levies are always due the last Tuesday in December. So our proposal for this evening is a total corporate and special purpose tax levy of $3,141,888, which represents a 3.87% increase over last year. In dollar terms, that equates to $117,063 increase over the prior year. The schedule there, kind of in the middle page, middle bottom half of the page on 27, shows last year's levy request. In the first column, 2024 levy request, the actual extension by the county, the actual tax rates for last year, and then about middle of the page, 25 levy requests. So you'll see the various special purpose line items, audit, IMRF, special rec, Social Security liability. You'll see the various proposed levy amounts in those categories, as well as the corporate fund, our largest levy. And then you'll see the calculated rate based on 2025's EAV. That max rate column just shows that we are only allowed a tax rate up to those percentages for those particular line items. Where there is no max rate listed, there is no max rate, so that is unlimited, if you will. But each one of these lines, we can only levy a tax that's equal to what our anticipated spend is, and we can only spend each of these line items on the listed purpose. So when we levy for Social Security specifically, we can only spend those levy dollars on Social Security taxes. But then the two columns on the right there will show you the percentage change year over year, as well as the dollar change. Now, you will notice that we're not approving or discussing the bond and interest levy, which has already been determined. That paperwork is already filed with the county. That is attached to the prior bond issues. So we have no control at this point over those levy amounts, other than we do have the ability to abate if there were ever a situation where we had a surplus of funds and we didn't need to levy the taxes associated with that debt. But if all holds true, the total levy, including bond and interest, would be $3,884,692, which represents a 2.9% increase over last year. questions on any of that?
I think one of the points here, one of the positive points for us is even assuming we accept, which is the recommendation of the finance committee, at the maximum allowable rate, the rate of taxation will be down this year from last year. So we go down from 0.488% to 0.457%. Which
It's good.
is always nice.
So the other thing I would just add to that is that, I spoke with both the, village and school district, both are taking the full, tax levy increase this year. So we would be doing the same as the other agencies in Lake Law.
Okay.
In most of the years, and we can go back and look, we have the numbers as to what increase was accepted each year. In most of the years that we've seen in the papers we've got for Park District, and most organizations take the maximum possible. And there are two good reasons for this. Number one, our costs are going up. And as you pointed out, John, minimum wage goes up again January 1st. That's just one item that's going to be going up quite a bit.
It increased this past January 1st, it won't increase this coming, it was 5 years of that, so that ended this year in 2025 was about another $1 increase, but you know, that there's again, minimum wage getting harder to attract, employees with part-time or seasonal employees at that rate. So those costs do continue to go up.
And the other point is that if we do not increase the spending or the amount that we're putting in for our levy requests to the maximum, you lose that forever. So next year, when you have whatever 3%, you're compounding that on what we actually tax this year, and not what the maximum could have been. So you kind of lose that ability forever.
I have a question. Sorry, right here.
Go for it.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. This is all good news. So because this is my first year of moving through this tax levy, what are we responsible for in terms of communicating to our community?
Because we don't pass the 5% threshold, we don't hold a public meeting, we don't have to publish it. It's just when you get your tax bill.
That's within the authority of the park district. So again, if you go above that threshold, then we do have to hold a hearing. We've done that in the past, nobody attends those, or really tunes in, so.
Okay. All right, so this is just expected.
What is it for every tax dollar? What is the percentage that actually comes down to the park district? It's like,
It's about 6%, it's very small, portion, as compared to the schools or county or, the Park Street tax bill, but it's about 6% for the park district.
And as you see from the chart on page 28, Lake Bluff is, well down the list of communities in our area.
Yeah, that was
In
all.
terms of what taxation goes to the park district.
That figure on the bottom, page 27. That might be wrong. That percentage increase, isn't it? It's like 3.6%, not 2.8. Matters that much.
Which number?
The total estimated tax levy changed from 24 to 25, it says 2.89. think it's 53.6.
Talking about the difference between the two, the red boxes.
No, just the bottom of page 7, the last line.
Oh, last.
Yeah.
Everything got it, definitely.
Yeah.
It's 3.5% instead of 2.8.
Wes, do you hear the question?
Uh,
So that's at the bottom of page 27, and sorry.
the actual, the actual increase is 2.89%. The number in the 2024 column, total estimated tax levy, is incorrect. It's not 3,749,000. It's 3,775,000, which you'll see up in the schedule right above it. The 3749 is sans the recapture amount that the county adds in to our levy. But nonetheless, it is still an amount considered part of our tax levy. So the typo is in total estimated tax levy 2024.
Okay, thank you.
So as I had said, the Finance Committee met and recommended that we approve the estimated property tax levy of $3,141,888, and the total, including debt service, of $3,884,692. Do we have any questions or comments about that? Okay, with that, could I please get a motion to approve resolution 2025-B, a resolution establishing the estimated funds to be raised by taxation for the 2025 tax levy?
So moved.
Arthur, roll call please.
Mr. Wheeler? Yes. Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Castor?
Yes.
Mr. Drum?
Yes.
Mr. Dingle?
Yes.
Mr. West?
Yes,
President Baker?
Yes.
Thank you, Wes.
Thank you. I'll be back.
Okay, thanks, Wilson. We're now going to go on and review the 10-year financial forecast. So like I said, we can discuss it here. If we have any questions for us, we can get back to him at the end of the meeting. I have been working for probably 3 years to try to get our district staff to come up with a proper 10-year forecast. And we've had changes. There have been a lot of people working on this and got a lot of this. We're going to be working on the budget. The budget is what really is more in terms of what the plans are for next year, the year after. It goes to 5 years, so the budget is always made out for 5. But when we look at large capital expenditures, then we sometimes have to look further out than 5 years and understand how much money we might expect to have over a longer period if in order to finance large projects. And obviously, I'm primarily referring to the beach, which is something that we're pushing to get something done. But getting something done will cost a fairly substantial amount of money. So it's important that we understand what we're looking at. And when we discuss something like the beach, what we have to work with and how we might look to finance something like that. So the first thing that I think we find by looking at this 10-year forecast is that financially, our district is in really good shape. We have project, and I have to go back and staff has done and continues to do a great job in putting our programs together, keeping our facilities going, and doing it within the resources that we have. So, first point, staff, we're in good shape because of you. I think we're also in good shape because the board has not just thrown money at every little project that comes by. We've been careful over the last several years as to what we spend. And so I think we've added to that.
Yay for the you two then.
So that's the first thing. The second thing so when we look down and we look at the money we have available, the expenditures expected and so on. I think we're in really good shape. The fund balances, and I'm looking at the bottom of page 34. We look at fund balances for two things. We look at fund balances in the recreation budget and the general fund, rec fund and general fund. That when we go to finance things, the S&Ps of the world want to see at least a 25% balance of balance to expense, percentage balance to expense. But overall, when we look at a balance, and this is something Wes has been pushing for, make sure that we have enough of a balance to cover against 12. Because 25%, that might be a year-end number, but it doesn't mean that during the year we go above, below, or whatever. So to have enough money in balances that we can keep the lights on, don't have to go and borrow short term. Do things like that. So these balances are great. Wes is looking, he talks about 50% balance. Which we've never been anywhere near that high before.
That seems extreme.
Pardon?
50%.
50%.
That seems high.
It is high, and Wes and his team are going to be looking at actual cash flow. We're going to try to do a closer cash flow analysis because we might find that, maybe 40% is not, maybe 35%. So we're looking at that, and I had discussions with Wes about that level. Which I'm gonna say the same thing for. But we're in very good shape from that point. Second thing I want to point out is that 10 years is a long time. 10 years from now, probably none of us will be on the board. I may not be alive. John, how long do you have before retirement?
11.
So John, we got.
So when we look out 10 years, you gotta take this with several buckets of salt. I can think. Things happen, things come up. And so we go and say, we can spend every penny that, Wes tells us we got. Probably not the smartest thing. Wes has estimated that we should have over the next 10 years from operating revenue, operating income, as well as our borrowing capacity, our non-referendum levy debt capacity, that we should have something around $4 million that we can spend. But that's it.
Yeah, that's still not enough.
So. Comments?
There's nothing in here for each. like for a big.
Yeah.
Can we maybe go high level just for a second? So beyond the beach, do we foresee any major projects?
I mean, we have our 10-year list of capital projects that will, continue to be updated. The pool was one of the largest, and the beach is the largest on that list. The sprinkler system, which was an unfunded village mandate, was another pretty good size one, although the village did give us some exemptions, so the saving quite a bit of money on that, but, everything has a life, span, so, I mean, there's gonna be playgrounds that need to be redone and things that are on the list.
But that seems like, okay, not to negate some of those things, because it's a couple $100,000 here, there. I'm just thinking, is there anything that we can see foreseeable future that would be as expensive as a beach? I don't think so. I just don't know what I'm missing.
I don't think, I mean, it's been talked about at this point.
Right, okay. Okay, I just wanted to know where we really need to focus.
Well, we talk about the pool renovations lasting 15 years, hopefully, maybe 20.
Yes.
I thought it was supposed to be 10. 20 seems like. Oh, big stretch.
That'd be good.
But there's nothing obvious that people comment that getting a little long in the tooth. Any buildings or consultants.
Yeah.
Seem to be obvious vendors for or extended replace. Or clubhouse.
I mean, if we were to do, well, this is just me speculating, this is not true or fact, or anything, it's pure speculation, but. I think all clubhouse could be turned into a real revenue generating product, given the right renovations. Turning it into wedding venue, party venue.
Yeah.
But that's pie staff, it's not required upgrades that we need to do. Right.
Yeah, no question. Well, right, so the two buckets, there is a reactive and a proactive. The pool is wound up on the operating, but the must have.
Was it have to?
Yeah.
And the pool was a have to, the beach was probably a have to. Okay. Carry on.
So yeah, seeing that there isn't really anything earmarked for the beach. Anytime soon.
All right. I mean, I think we have normal capital expenditures of the beach. But no major project, right?
We have none in here. Correct.
Let's just hope that Mother Nature cooperates with what you're saying.
So are we suggesting that we aren't going to put any money aside for that for the next 10 years?
I don't think so.
Oh.
I'm hoping, I'm assuming that we do.
But we can obviously sort that out tonight, so Jennifer's committee, which is, working hard to. Re-estimate those possible costs from the engineering firm.
And where would be the most effective way to be able to look at, if we have money available or we need to raise money, that would be most cost effective way to do this, but we recognize this is where we need to go.
And can we assume that when we either go back to the same engineering firm and choose a new one, that there will be options presented to us, so. This is the least expensive, short things up, and this is the most, maybe someone will.
Have we not requested updates to those numbers yet, or have we requested an update to the estimates that was on the beach?
We had not, the first step would be to do the beach master plan and get that underway. So that we have the ability to give a plan in place to then start for a machinery for additional funding.
But those wasn't the previous plans that we reviewed 4 months ago, 3 months ago, with the outdated pricing, that was not the beach master plan.
Those were 2018 numbers.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
but
So we had various plans over the years that had, that need to be assessed as to what was completed, what still is relevant at this point, and that's why we look to, and again, back to the Parks and Beach Committee, look to hire a firm to be able to do the master plan so that we have that underway. And that is the base to launch. Sense.
it makes sense, but I thought that was already in progress. I thought we were looking for an update to the numbers from the 2018 survey based on all the work that said we need to be doing this stuff now.
Yeah. That is.
Seeing no money set aside in the next 10 years for the erosion of probably one of the most important assets of the village.
That was, oh, you were talking about the AD homestead.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
that's
also the
this,
plans that went into, were those two not connected?
two different things. The master plan is really how we're looking at all the things that need to be done for the beach, not just erosion. So what we had with from AECom was addressing specifically the different codes of beach themselves, beach for erosion. So, and one would be our ability as a park district to look for additional funding sources other than what we use internally. And then secondarily, it would be looking for specific. Makes sense?
It makes sense, I'm just feeling a little frustrated. Feels like we all know that this work needs to be done, not seeing anything. Being done about it for the past 5 to 6 months, we've been running in circles, we know that it's habitable.
To be fair, Jennifer's has some change over on the committee. So, she's really trying to.
We had someone who
Sure.
was not going to be working on the master plan. So not very committee. So,
I believe we've had 2 beach meetings since we were sworn in. And it's November. Just one.
So, how we can help is we can service another committee member for Jennifer. So,
we have some folks.
Ross.
Yeah.
Yes, we've been advertising, we've had a couple of applications.
Yeah,
I think that,
I sent a recommendation to Jennifer maybe 2 months ago.
But Kami, I look at this, and this is different from the proposal that was made in 2018, 2019 by AECom. I look at what we did with the pool as being maybe, hopefully, being an example of what we might do with, where we started out with the pool with 3 different plans. We had kind of an Audi, a Mercedes, and a Ferrari. And we eventually took the Audi, which John and I both have, so that's what I picked that. So he's got a hot one, I've got this one. Yes, you do. And we took the Audi, we tweaked it a little bit, we worked on it a little bit, and we ended up with a beautiful new pool. Yeah, and a much lower price than either the Mercedes or the Ferrari.
Yes, I was on the facilities and programs.
The AECom plan had different parts to it, but it was not one part, they were not all for the whole beach with different levels. They broke it up into the different cells and said, okay, if you do the north cell, this is center cell, south offset. And I think we need to take a new look at things. Now, what I'm saying might be absolute nonsense, okay, in terms of practicality. But I think we have to take a new look at this. Look at it in a different way, talk to some other people, see what other ideas might be out there. And it's gonna take a little bit of time. But I think if we do it right, we can end up with something really, really good.
Well, as it should take some time and we have to be thorough because we have to answer to our community. With everything we do, especially if we end up going to some kind of referendum. So,
Well,
yes,
that's ultimately why I wanted to have this conversation now, because I want to avoid the referendum, and I don't see us. This doesn't look like we're planning to avoid it.
well, we don't know, because we don't know what the costs are gonna be.
We've
And
been talking about it since probably September or August and. Feeling frustrated on the fact that.
well, also, so there's a lot of factors that we came, so it's the stages that we potentially go on, when the money, how much money is due, when the money is due. And those are choices that we all have to make. I don't think anyone in this room wants to run from. Sure, that's. Not our first stop.
Well, but if we look at that AECom plan. Which may or may not be the right plan, but if we look at it, back in 2019, when they priced it, it came in north of $4 million. So looking at it 6 years later, almost 7 years later, essentially. Where is that pricing coming in? 5, 6 million?
For all three phases, correct?
For all three phases, do all three phases.
Yeah, so.
7, 8.
Harris.
I mean, I think 5 or 6, you have a lot, and I think.
I mean, we're.
But the other thing is, the longer we wait, the more it costs, right? Like, the more erosion is going to happen if we don't have the proper system set in place, so the longer we wait for this to happen, the more expensive it eventually is going to be. The report that spoke to the erosion of the clay, the bedrock, or sorry, the underlying clay, said that these projects needed to happen with some immediacy, and that was in the 2018 report that.
Well, 2018, don't sit at the lake levels were much higher than that.
They were, that was one of the big concerns, was at the higher lake level, so there was more erosion at that time. They've been gradually, they've gone down. And again, I've talked to a couple of different communities, chose different approaches, one chose because it's down and it's not really causing any erosion, that they're, not doing anything right now. Another one decided to go ahead and go forward with some of their erosion work because the contractors, are looking for work and, to get, they felt a little bit better pricing. So they used Armor Stone for a lot of the, for this work, so won't be tariffs on that, it's local, makes sense. But when they did this study, the study was in 2019, when they did a study, Armor Stone, pricing was high that year, so I know that I talked to them within the past year, the engineer, the coastal engineer that was involved in that project. So if, there will be increases in some of those estimates, but it won't be as, high as maybe what we feared. And just a reminder, we have, applied back in May for another grant for the planning, $140,000 from the state. That would be used to do the planning and the permitting for, whatever society to be done here. If it's phase one of the work that needs to be done, and then that's not been announced yet. That was supposed to be announced over the summer, but that wasn't announced. So we have our legislative advocate who's working on that, Springfield, trying to see if we can get some movement there on that money, because then the plan would be to, go after some additional funding, potentially from the state to help finance the project in the future, something similar to what was used at the Illinois State Park, with that $73 million erosion project. So I know there's a number of steps, and then, we go back to the master plan, for the beach and then the erosion study. So there's a lot of steps here. I know it doesn't seem like things are happening very quickly, but there has been a fair amount of work done, and I think it's just gonna need to continue to work through the committee and come back to the board for, more decisions and planning. We may not get the grant from the state, we may have to decide again, what sort of money we want to dedicate to the project, and if we want to do it in few, phases, for the future, but it's, we're taking it serious. We know it's a serious issue that the Park District is facing.
No, there's,
And I think,
thank you for that.
I think we also should take into account that from a financing point of view, we do not have the borrowing capacity today. You know, when you look, if you go back to we had a couple meetings ago, it's gonna be a few years before we have any kind of substantial borrowing capacity. Now, we can structure something where we can get the money sooner, but we're gonna be paying interest on that, it's gonna be more expensive. So we might save money here, but cost more money there. I'm not saying we should do it, I'm not saying we should wait,
Well,
but there are a number of factors involved that come into play. It's not just, let's do it today and.
and it could be that by the time we get to phase 3, we're ready to borrow. And avoid,
Absolutely, depending how we do it and how it gets put together.
how can we help you?
Get 2 million.
Beside that,
This is a conversation that Paul and I had multiple times offline, so this is not situation. Really, I think, as I said, it's working the problem, there's been a lot of. You're balancing 3 different things at the same time, sources of financing, if we're gonna be financing externally or internally, and then really how we're going to even look at what John said, funding the planning of it itself, because a lot has happened since 2019. The Bean property had to be renovated. There's gonna be the Lillian Dell or the Puerto Rico Big P tunnel issue that's going on in Lake Bluff, that's in no doubt going to somehow impact with wildlife levels. And with there's been a design project that's taking place, so we don't know, because we're just not versed in this area, what it has done to impact what's happening with our beach. So we are gonna have to look at another engineering firm, spend that kind of money in order to be able to get setting ducks in a row, for to be able to look for funding, we have to have the master plan done. So, John has gotten proposals for that. So that's gonna have to be factored in, and then
In order of events, the master plans first.
master plan is gonna be
The last
first.
time we did that, 2014.
We had a 2018, 2014. There's a number of different master plans that are out there that at last point we're working to consolidate what was done, what still is relevant, what's not done. So that needs now to be done professionally outside. We thought we would be able to do it internally because we have the committee people to be able to do that. Now, we will have to use an external source.
What the ballpark timing, what is reasonable for that, figuring out who's gonna do it, initiating it, actually doing the master plan, knowing this multi-year.
No, a couple of months.
Okay.
Yeah, we have the quote, we have the proposal for that, and that just be to a committee when we can convene a meeting there for them to, you know, to look through that. That's the original consultant that did the plan in 2014, that's submitted a quote to update that included a couple of public meetings and public engagement and all of that. So, yeah, I think you're right, a few months.
Okay.
Well, hopefully we can cross this up. But thank you, Chris.
So I think as we continue this discussion and really work towards finding workable solutions, keep that $4 million figure in your heads. And think about how much of that you're comfortable putting towards people. Because we may not want to work from it.
that's a loaded question, and though,
But if we have a $5 million project, whatever it is, 4, 5, 6
so let's,
million project,
But keeping the fund balance high, it doesn't sound so bad. Thinking about it, right? Even that percentage high, it's okay, to have a little cushion also, at the same time. I know it's not gonna be the beach, but
It's not gonna make the beach, and I don't argue with that, Andrew, and like I said, I've had this discussion with Wes. But that's not gonna make the difference between 2 million and 5,
So can we
just as.
wait? To do two things, get the master plan and then rework the numbers on the beach erosion part of the master plan. And understand these two most expensive options. And then we really start figuring out. What can we work with, what are we comfortable with, and then how will we pay for it? Is that fair? Until then, these are just numbers.
These are potentials. Yeah, I mean, because again, when we've spoken about this online is. Depending on the scope of the beach project, is this something like the pool that we would possibly fund internally with some sort of outside sources, but until we know the scope of what we're going to do and what would be the most effective. You know. Got 3 different cells of the beach. Can we do all 3? Can we do one? And it has the most impact, we just don't know that.
Right, exactly, and I realize that this issue, to Katie's point, has been in play for lots of years. It's probably safe to say that this board has got to get after that. And I think we're all committed to make that happen.
We certainly want to see something done.
Yes, we do.
And how we get that done, what we need, what's realistic to do. As Jennifer pointed out, behind all this is Mother Nature saying, well, I'm gonna send a 500-year storm your way. And all this nice work you've done, it's gonna get washed away.
You can ask Helen Park about that.
By the park element, right? And so. That's a decision we're gonna have to make. I will say on the referendum side that. I think it was even pre-COVID. In my first stint as chair of finance committee. The members of the committee then were talking that. If the beach and the bluff are that important to the community, which we all believe it is. Then they should be willing to support a reasonable referendum. To pay for the work that's recommended by professionals.
I'm sorry, I don't believe in that logic. It's
Okay,
the duty of this board to protect the assets of the park district with the funds and assets that we have. Instead of just saying, hey, we need $4 million from you folks, pony up or we have no beach. That's not, I believe, where we're sitting.
well, the village is taxing us all money every time we get a water bill to pay for the flood control. Now, is it their responsibility with the resources they
I
don't?
think that's a different conversation. That's got nothing to do with what's going on here.
Oh, I don't know.
But you look at it from the point that we have $8 million coming in every year, and we have $45 million project. I don't know how, in trying to run the operations in the park district,
But that's our job to figure it out, right? And
Well-
I'm just frustrated with not seeing any action in this 10-year plan right now. For something that we have identified as being probably the most important thing that this board is facing.
We left it out of the 10-year plan because I wanted it to be a clean plan where we discuss the beach and we put something in. It's not that nothing's gonna go in, okay?
Okay.
That wasn't the reason. If we put money in, well, what are we putting in? How much do we put in?
I mean, we're just talking in circles right now, so we can move on past this issue because clearly we're not going to solve this. So. Just like that.
I still think it's worth talking about that. It was a good exercise to show what could go towards the beach. I think what we're really looking for is to show what excess capacity would there be in the future. To have money to put towards the beach, and how much is that? Is that, meaning it needs to be half of what needs to be done, or how much is there? So I still think it was a good exercise.
Sorry to bring it up.
Do we have any other comments on this?
No, that's what we'd like to know.
Gonna be a lot of work.
I know it's true, and the heavy lifting is, will be, or there's gonna be plenty of long meetings, regardless.
Well, long meetings in public,
Maybe, yeah. and
because we
let's-
have to get the public.
Let's save our stamina, tonight's not one of them.
All right, let's go on to something else. Don, would you start the conversation?
Yes, thank you. So moving on, happy news. We're on page 40 of your packet. Brief memo, and then page 41 is actual proclamation. So we're the park district doing a proclamation. They've done 2 in the 5 years that I've been, well, 3 with the 1 for the church, the 2 for employees. 1 was for Micah Kamen, who retired after 25 years from the park district. A couple of years ago, and then this one here, which is for Noah, who was the superintendent for parks, having spent 34 years of his life working for the park district, starting as a child, I believe, and gaining a lot of experience. We've decided to do a proclamation just because of the years of service, the contributions, which is really brought this professional level to our maintenance here, park maintenance for the park district. And I will say, starting here 5 years ago, I really learned a lot from Noah about the park district and about the community, which was helpful. I think that I would just like to say, I think Noah was very professional and hardworking, and had a great work ethic, but he was also good at working with the residents of the park district. I think he really learned a lot about how to treat the residents with respect, and really it showed in his work, and he was popular with these affiliate groups that we work with, as Commissioner Brum can probably tell you, for baseball and the yacht club and the other affiliates. So I would just like to thank Noah for all of the years of work that hard work that he's put in here for the park district, and how he's advanced a lot of the systems and the different protocols and things for the park district for the maintenance that have really set it up for the maintenance department for success. With that, I wanted to turn it over to Deputy Lakeman. If you've worked with Noah a little bit longer than I have, if you have any additional comments.
Man, I have a lot of comments, but I'm not sure I can really say any of them right now.
That's a public meeting.
No, Noah was very much so, very popular with the staff. He did an outstanding job in his various different roles, from being parks manager to being superintendent. Showed great leadership, had an excellent sense of humor, really good sense of humor. And I echo with the affiliates. Anybody who I talk to in the community always compliments, "Oh, we miss Noah," or they'll say, just how he would bend over backwards to get things done. So this is really nice that this is being done, and thank you, Noah, for all your years of service here.
With that, we have a proclamation, which would like to run President Greenfield and present this to Noah right here, so we could take a little picture of you doing that. So Noah, will ask you to step up, and we can do it kind of right here in front. And I think we have all the park commissioners stand behind the table here, that we get kind of a group photo with all the commissioners. Oh, please don't stand behind Noah, because.
Yeah, let him share that.
You won't see that.
Are we all?
John, do you want in there?
No, this is, thank you. If I can have you step just a little bit to your left. Jennifer. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
There we go. Okay, we see everybody now. It's great. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. Perfect. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you. No,
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I miss you most of all, here, girl.
No, sorry about the delay. We had to do those finance things first while we had Wes, and then
That's quite all right. I understand completely. Thank you all so much.
And I just want to thank you also, Noah. It was always a pleasure to see your smiling face around here and your hard work. And Noah started out on the golf course, right? Noah's father was the golf course.
Why you started?
Organization, my first summer.
So,
How old you started here?
Is this still recording?
Yeah.
I think the statute of limitations is over. I was full. It was full. I think we're a lot different back in the late days.
Yeah,
But
awesome.
thank you so much. I really appreciate this, and I can't tell you how much I miss my love family very much, so. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, that's. Okay. Oh, great, now we go to the, well, Nova Park renovation update,
so we just continue to move along as we're closing out the pool project, moving into the Knollwood project. So we're finalizing the design stage, getting ready to do the construction documents, and eventually preparing to bid that out over the winter. And with hopes of starting that, our plans of starting the construction again in August would allow the baseball season this spring and summer to take place, and then we would do the renovation of the park after that. So so things are progressing along, and we'll probably have a little bit more detailed update at the next Parks and Beach committee meeting, and then we'll bring even more information back to the board.
let's continue. Okay, let us then move into the amenity naming rights. Now, it says that there is approval. I'm not sure we're quite there for approval, but we're getting very close. The first 2 pages. Jennifer worked over the wording that we had and the drafts that we had before, and put together what I think is a very good written summary. And then I was given the challenge, because I brought a point on civic naming rights, and I was given the challenge of, okay, come up with some ideas, which I did. And so we can discuss those as well, and try to get to hopefully a final version. That would then go to Scott Puma, our attorney, just to bless that and make sure we're okay with that. And then hopefully at the next meeting, we can approve this and have it put into policy, so.
Okay, so just let me clarify, because the first, so page 42, 43, that's a second revision of what we started with. And then-
Correct.
Okay, so it's really just 44 with your addition of the civic naming rights.
Yes. So. I mean, my first recommendation here with the civic naming rights is that we should try to keep it as objective as possible. And not have someone who has, you know, my good friend. Has done this and that, and I think we should name. You know, whatever, the golf course gazebo after him, or. Because then you bring personalities in, you bring neighbors in, you bring. A little bit less objectivity to who really deserves to have something to be named after. So I felt that if staff comes to us with ideas and staff says, okay, this person would serve the community and so on and so forth. Try to keep our personal friendships, relationships and so on out of it. And keep it more objective. And then again, I think there should be a standard of serving, if we name something after someone, that person should have served the park district over a number of years, done something extra, not again, just, you know, this has been a good person for a little while, they did this one, let's name something. I think this really should be very special. Basically what I'm saying.
Do you think we
It shouldn't
should
happen very often.
just to the park district or extend it to the village of Lake Club as well?
I would say the park district. I mean, I don't think. We could, I just be specific now. I think we should focus on the park district because the village is gonna focus on the village. Library will focus on the library and so on. And then again, I wouldn't name any substantial park district assets after someone, I think. You know, the rec center should not become. The Jennifer Beeler Rec Center. Because she served, well, maybe.
Do we need to? Do we need to get more specific about quote substantial park district assets or would we let the staff? I don't wanna get, you know.
I would say staff, if staff has that. And I think with the other naming rights, with the philanthropic naming rights. We're not gonna go to people and say, would you please give us $1 million to do this, and then we'll name this after. Companies or individuals are gonna come to us and say, we'd like to contribute this to the park district. And then we would, if it meets our other criteria for the naming rights, we would then extend naming rights.
Unless, of course, we needed $5 million for the beach, and then we might do that.
I was gonna say, I do that before I Google up.
I would do that all day long.
All right,
You shelter after you.
how about with $1 million? We'll discuss it.
I mean, my only comment to.
So,
Oh, sorry.
I don't think it's a question of someone in the community says, well, if you, go put the thumb on Abbott Labs to contribute money. We're not gonna do that. So. Those naming rights are gonna present themselves naturally. But I just felt that something like this, some suggestion like this, to keep civic naming rights really. Rare. And special. And keep the personalities on it, keep the relationships on it.
Can you just sum up that bullet, because it's a double negative, so I'm trying to understand it. A monetary contribution not meeting the criteria of the other areas and naming rights should not affect them. So in other words. Is that there does not be a monetary.
Correct.
So just say that.
That if somebody they might make a monetary comment,
Yeah.
But it's- but it should not affect. We should, in other words, someone who's been active in the community. Would not have to make a monetary contribution, or if they do, it should not affect whether they have some.
Does this restrict us from What happens if someone comes in with 300 grand and we want to change this? What do we have to do?
Your policy speaks.
Feel like the pool patio, that's something where you could do. It's not gonna meet the threshold of 500,000 to officially name it. Alliance family pool patio. But you can still do recognition, so you can do a flag saying, this is. Amenity is made possible, the donation by. We're not gonna officially name it, we're not, dad, so it won't be, written or approved. Need to be approved by the board as a naming, but you can do recognition, so. There's always that, or there's, of course, the board can choose to make an exception if something exceptional came along.
So. That may moment that the Browns wants to move forward with a decision here, is there any reason why we're not approving this tonight?
Well, we can approve. What we wanna put in the final draft to go to Scott Hume, like the final model. Is gonna await Scott Hume, and let him know.
I don't know why we can't move forward on the book, I mean, no matter what draft we end up approving. We're not letting them name it Kiwanis, right? I mean, we're all there, that we're not next month gonna come up with a draft of this that allows it to be named Kiwanis.
Right, but a plaque, and I think we need to understand that they were full of that.
And exactly, and that's why I think, like in talking to Johnny, I think we can move forward, and I can just tell him like. It will not be named that, no matter what the board decides, we're not naming it the Kiwanis Pool Pavilion, so they have to be okay with it being. Brought to you by the Kiwanis Club or whatever it may be, but it's not going to be called.
Okay, we left them hanging too.
I don't think the approval of this should be slowing that down one bit, because there's just no way, I don't see us. So.
And I've had an initial conversation with that person from the Kiwanis Club. Saying that this was the way that was going, so that it likely wouldn't be an officially named. Amenity under what's being proposed here, but we can still do the recognition as far as, the plaque or the invasive stone, and they, seemed okay with that and still going forward.
Perfect. All right,
Now, we still have to look at the budget and costs and what we're gonna have to put into it. Because that's something we still need to approve.
It needs final approval, what the Friends discussion was that it wouldn't cost Park District at all, the initial. That the Friends would pick up anything that wasn't covered by the $25,000 donation by the Kiwanis, and then some of the suppliers that are gonna donate materials. And Mariani was gonna donate some of their work, so it might leave, I think he said up to
10 to 15,000 for the foundation.
foundation effect. So then it would just be taking on the, the upkeep, the eventual upkeep or replacement, which, based on the materials they're using. Isn't gonna be a lot, it's pretty durable materials.
The only real ongoing maintenance is that the actual pergola that's been put on it, that will have a lifespan of 5, 6, 10 years, something like that, but like the rest of it. You power wash it and water the plants and it's gonna.
All right, well, we can put that on the agenda for the next meeting. Once, now that we get the Friends covering where it's not gonna cost me, I put that on the agenda. So how do we feel about this policy, and how do we feel about the suggestions I've made for the civic day?
I mean, my question would just be with your suggestion for the civic games rights. Just because I'm in that world, traditionally, a lot of our baseball fields are named after people who have made considerable donation of time and labor and everything else. To the baseball association, not necessarily directly to the park district. So. Would we consider supporters, so would a. 20-year baseball president with blah, 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 who dies in a plane crash. would that be enough of a supporter of a park district?
Why does the poor guy have to die?
To that level where we're all like, we have to do something, yeah, so.
It says living or deceased.
Seems to be a theme baseball.
Yeah.
Sorry. Don't mean to-
No, that's not, there are plenty of living.
I mean,
But
But you have to come from staff.
it would have to come from the staff, but I just read it as considerable contributions to the park district, again.
Well, we're naming that baseball fields. Baseball fields are park district property.
Correct.
So if it's naming a baseball. Then it's still. A park district asset that's being honored. Whether we leave baseball fields exclusively to people. Who have been involved with the Little League.
I think that's the point he's trying to make, is the Little League considered part of the park district, because we're specifically calling out park district individuals
Yes.
specifically.
The Little League is not part of the park.
That's what he's saying.
Correct.
No.
And I
The
think
baseball field.
But anyone dedicating time to the baseball field as it is currently written. Would technically not be able to name a baseball field after them, because they're donating their time to the baseball association, but not the park.
that's where I wanna iron it out, because I do believe that. By and large, there's gonna be nobody donating time to the park district. That will contribute to the baseball fields as much as the volunteers.
The existing names, the existing field names, those people were donating time to park districts. That at a time when the baseball program was run through the park district. And not necessarily the.
Well, some of them were presidents in the past, so I don't.
Quade, Troyer, but Porter, obviously not, right?
Yeah. And so I think that would be, I would want to make sure that that policy leaves an out for. Again, I would imagine if we name another baseball field, it would probably be someone. Connected to Little League and not necessarily donating time to the park district, because the park district doesn't have baseball programs, because we have to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, isn't that a one-off then? If you go-
It is, and that's why I just wanna make sure that it's enough in there for that one-off to occur.
You know, well, that is the status for, so the recommendations are made to staff with the proper backup.
Well, okay, this is it, you've got 3 points and you have recommendations for naming rights should be made by staff to the board. The second part is naming rights should be reserved for services or contributions made in the park district over a period of years. And then the third part is beyond, that service has to be beyond those performed by many volunteers or supporters. So, I mean, in breaking it down, are we saying that civic naming rights should come from staff?
And I'm okay with that, and I mean, I think the idea that the board goes to staff, the Lakeville Baseball Board goes to staff and says, hey, this guy did miracles and did this wonderful stuff. Is okay, I'm saying that second line,
Well, that's just it, they
Does
just
that-
get into a measure, as to, you're getting into a measure as to how you weigh, so what someone's contribution is above and beyond, or who's gonna assess the measure?
I mean, do we expand it to the park district for recreational activity within the village of Lakeville? So that, like, for instance, I'm thinking, you know, the guy who does the cross country trails. Who just like maintains them and puts the signs up, and he's not a park district employee, yeah, but.
I'm not saying he's dedicated to the park district, so I mean, he's doing that.
But it's.
So that's not a park district, it's just on, it's on a park district property, but it's not a park district program, just like baseball.
Yeah.
Right,
I didn't say anywhere here that it has to be relevant to park district programs, but I mean, service are kind of not the park district, needs in the park. But I also don't think we should get into a situation where baseball field naming is reserved for people. Who've done something for,
I guess we're trying to loosen up that service or contribution to the park district.
I just wanna make sure that, yeah, our understanding of service to the park district, does that include a guy grooming trails? That doesn't work for the park district and doesn't do it, does it include a little league coach that
dedicated 25 years. to
Does it include, the sailing program is not Park District, right? It's their, they have a sailing
Oh,
club.
sailing program.
But I mean, the program, but I mean, they have a yacht club or something separate of that. What about somebody that does some miracle things for the yacht club? Technically, that's not Park District, it's like another affiliate.
I think staff would have to make a determination as to whether the contribution is sufficient for the park district. My idea, my opinion, that it warrants having a park district facility, some park district asset having their name.
I mean, if we look at Porter Field, we just named Porter Field, I would say he gave exceptional civic service or contribution to the park district. Now,
Okay, well, that was
by,
before.
right, I'm just saying,
I mean, he was an employee of the park district who gave contributions to our programs.
But-
I mean, it
to
wasn't
not go above and beyond than any other legal league coach in terms of years of service, amount of work or anything. We've done like that, so technically, if he were brought to it as it stands right now, which I think we would all agree, the field should be named Porter Field. It wouldn't fit this standard of definition, by our own policy, we would not allow ourselves to
Okay,
name
yeah,
it.
this is to make it not so specific, but make it's gonna come up on a case by case basis. I mean, just as you said, does he have to die in a plane crash, or does he just, he just fall off a cliff, or did he get hit by basic? I mean, there's a lot of different ways to go, and does he have to be dead or alive? So if you're talking about criteria here about measuring your service, and it really, I think is gonna have to be, in my, as the circumstances come up for the civic name, because we can do hypotheticals about services to Loyola, to the youth baseball, to,
I mean, yeah, look at
to the member.
the field in Westlake Forest. I mean, the kid got hit by a train, like, there was no service, there was no dedication to a park district, he liked to play baseball and a tragic accident happened. And it was the right thing to do, and again, I agree with King, this kind of makes it so. Getting hit by a train doesn't count.
No,
You can
No, I
facility.
don't read that at all. I think it is the case by case, and this is where we trust the staff to make the right decision. Based on, so there probably should be some kind of a format or form of telling why this person. And so it's business case, basically.
Yeah, I think we just need to, I would just on that
Yeah,
whole thing.
I mean, if we're having a conversation, we're asking for input, I think Ben and I are on the same page that. That first or second bullet point needs to be maybe loosened up. For exceptional service or contribution to the park district in some way, shape, or form that can allow us to fit the existing. The most recent cases and the existing cases that we have, I think. People 10, 15 years down the line, they're gonna look at that exceptional service or contribution to the park district. And take it to the letter of the policy, and I think we are asking to open it up.
Well, what would you propose?
I think we can change the language of exceptional service or contribution, and park district, I would also add. And or recreational activities for the village and citizens of the club.
I would consider start with the village because, park district, is
For the
citizens is about half of our.
Yeah, that's it. Nice citizens of like.
Citizens of the club.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to amend.
Citizens and residents of the park.
It's part of.
Residents of, yeah, because there's, so you can't even go in, you gotta have residents of the park.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying, I'm just trying to fit those unique scenarios in there, and let's face it, naming baseball fields. Doesn't happen very common, but it happens more. Commonly than any other name I can think of, so it is probably the most common thing to be named. That's owned by the park district. And it's probably the thing that's. Got the least amount of direct park district service. Correlated with the people who pay for. It's
Again,
well, again, it's splitting hairs of who ran it, but my point is, it's totally.
there was no LBY in baseball, so.
How does everyone else feel about that? Adding that,
I think broaden it, I don't think it hurts anything, especially if we take things on a case by case basis and use the right definitions.
And we still need a unanimous vote, right? For civic.
Yeah, that was changed.
Yeah, so you can make that as broad as you want, and yes, it kind of guides us, but. You still gotta convince the group, that's a lot, convince it if you're. You know, someone that. There's any question about, so.
I don't think softening the language like opens it up to like.
Yeah.
I think people are still gonna read it, understand, like this person had to give some sort of contribution to the park district or the community.
We're setting
Yeah,
ourselves up to have to vote on like a tragic situation. with the immigrants.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough decision we gotta make.
There you go.
I don't think it's gonna come up that often.
The other points that I put in here,
Large, smaller fixtures and not large assets. For civic, is that extend to all three categories or just civic?
this this is all related to civic.
Civic only.
And Jennifer will correct my double negative.
Jennifer, correcting things over there.
I understand that. I mean, why would we not name? I mean, we would name a park, right? Like, why would we limit civic to not being able, I mean, we have parks named after people back. Wouldn't we wanna do that in the
We
future
do.
potentially?
Their part.
Well, you see, but that was money.
So, I mean,
I would rather name a park for civic, that's all. I mean, unless we need 4 million for the beach and then my baby change a
And it's-
little bit, but.
and it's Huron Beach.
Oh, I thought we were saving those big assets for the money makers.
Yeah.
And the smaller things were the civic. I think makes sense, unless we lost a couple. Blacks.
Yeah.
I mean, the rock down by the beach. We can do. Naming the beach after someone for their civic contribution. No, we want the $5 million grant.
Yeah.
Right. Alright, I'm not impressed with that.
Jennifer, are you, what were? Or some rewording First one, no, just that, I'm not all wordsmiths and stuff.
I'm imposing on Jennifer.
Or
because she wrote the
That's
first one.
okay. Yeah, give John some language that you want for that person. Okay. Okay,
We good?
so the naming rights policy. I think is for everything, so. Yes, so the civic philanthropic and for. Yeah, for all naming rights. So we've got it covered.
Yeah, so we can incorporate. These
Yeah.
points.
Do we need to include living and deceased, or can we just kind of assume? Let's include it. Doesn't
I
hurt.
mean, it can be included in the actual description, like to honor an individual living or deceased.
Well,
I don't think it needs to online. Just as.
So we don't need any plain permissions.
yeah, I think it's in good shape to go to Scott. Are we? Proving anything for the Scott? I can go ahead and, we incorporated everything that we talked about and have it ready for the 15th. Yes, thank you, but we're okay with the building. Yeah, okay.
All right, good. Final level on new business is the calendar, board committee meeting calendar, this mainly board calendar. I have a couple of, so this we have to do by the end of the year.
We do, we need to adopt it, usually you approve it in December when you file a county. In December, So we start in November again with this draft. They can either any conflicts or, make changes, bring it back in December for final approval.
Okay, so I've got two issues, the July sixth committee of the whole meeting. That's the Monday after the July 4th holiday. And like this year, it might mean that a lot of people are out of town.
Well, is the fourth on a Saturday?
4th is a
A
Saturday,
lot of people have that Monday or
yeah,
Friday off.
so
Reserved.
I think we ought to move that back a week.
Good point.
I would agree.
Okay, so
And-
July 13th for the committee of the whole.
Yeah. And then September 21 is the Yom Kippur holiday.
Oh, I thought that was over, I thought,
The New Year, Rosh Hashanah is earlier, but the 21st is
okay,
that holiday, which we should change that by.
to the 28th, there's actually 4, and so the 28th.
So the 20.
Okay,
Um. Pardon?
That,
Do you normally have it like that late in December?
That's what I was wondering too.
Seems like a rough time to get everybody here.
yeah, it's the timing, because the first starts on a Tuesday, so that it is still only the third. We do typically the first and third unless there's conflicts. And so that does fall kind of late just because of where the month starts on a Tuesday with the first, but. But there is, that flexibility to move that up and we make it that
right, make it the 14th.
14th.
Yeah,
And we are doing back to back on a few other dates. That's probably a good idea.
I would do the 14th also,
Can you remind,
because that's school vacation, 21st.
Yeah.
It will be school vacation.
That would be.
how many meetings our commissioners left this?
Well. Policy, we changed the policy. Weren't quite as concise with it as we should have been. And we might want to talk about that. The current policy is that a commissioner has to attend 8 meetings,
Of the regular board meeting?
8 board meetings.
Okay.
We didn't discuss committee of the whole meetings. And that might be something we want to do in the future, just to clarify the number of meetings,
We're gonna do the same.
but I would.
What's? I'm a little confused, so we write policy for board members. But they're elected officials. Like, right, we're all elected officials. Like, I just ran the Lake County Board, I can tell you, I can name like 6 of those people that have shown up to 10% of the meetings. Their whole careers on the Lake County Board, but people keep voting them in. What right do we have as our own board to then write a policy that says Paul missed 8 meetings, we're gonna kick him off the board, you're an elected official, like, I don't know if other elected officials should kick you off the board. I don't know if I'm comfortable with that.
That's an interesting question.
I don't know if you have any right to do that whatsoever, actually, I think it's probably illegal. I mean, for you to come in and say, "Ben, you missed 6 meetings, you kick off the board," I don't think you did. I think the people would have to vote me out my next term, is what you do, and that's what I would do. I'm not saying I wanna miss much meetings, I don't think you're wrong. But like, I'm just questioning why we're writing policy on elected officials today, I don't know. It's not criminal, if we have any right to do anything about it.
It's been in the policy.
Yeah.
as long as I can remember. We tightened it, it initially said if they miss more than the allowed number of meetings, they can be asked to leave the board. And then it didn't have a number of allowed meetings.
Yeah.
Which kind of not helpful. And we put meetings in there so that there was.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything in the park district code.
Right,
These are, administrative policies, all park districts have them, and the board, has developed them over the years and changed them or updated them. To just address different issues, so I can definitely check with our attorney. I don't know if again, if that's in the park district policy or code or what that's based off of.
Does it read more like setting expectations, or is it really, it says something about asking them to leave?
that policy is asking them to leave. Now, other requirements, other standards for board members in the policy manual. There's no provision for asking anyone to leave. You're expected to do certain things. And we're all expected to act according to the policy of the board. But there's really nothing formal that anyone can do if you don't do it,
Yeah.
we can throw things at.
But there's gotta be an impeachment, there is a way to remove a board, there's gotta be, like, super majority, I imagine. And that would make sense, hey, if you miss more than 6 meetings, have a hearing and the majority or unanimously, everybody says you gotta go, I imagine there's a way to do that, thing. I'm not an expert, but you can remove the presidents of the United States somehow, so we ought to be able to move a board member if they're, right, doing something awful. I just, when we're changing policies about how many meetings you can miss, there's no. Fight to the bar, like, what does it matter, that's like.
We'll have to check with Scott Puma and see if there's something in the park district code that relates to removing a board member. Because you're right, we can't just decide, there's gotta be something in the law that allows us to do. Okay,
So we need to approve on this.
Yeah, this is just a draft, so we won't get for long.
okay, with that, we have written communications or correspondence.
Nothing else to add.
Okay. There's no other business, can I please have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we'll.
Thanks, everyone.